What's going on, YouTube? So I'm officially back in business regarding having my storage back up to date. So I'll be able to record a video without being disrupted this time. So this video is going to be very encouraging, I think. So go ahead and like while you're here. Let's get this ball game rolling. So I'm here today to talk about some of my dating experiences whilst being inside Watchtower. And I'm also going to talk about critical thinking and why this is important from a different perspective regarding certain things dealing with Watchtower members. And I also will share some anecdotes regarding certain things that I experienced whilst being at various meetings as a ministerial servant with elders and other servants and circuit overseers. Now, first of all, it's fitting to remind people that I grew up around the organization, but my mom and dad were not witnesses at that time. Now, my dad never became a JW, but my grandpa was, but he died when I was 3 years of age. My grandpa on my dad's side. Now, my mom got baptized about 3 years ago. But when her mom came into the organization, she was 8 years old at that time. And of course, I was nowhere in sight. Now, I say that to say that all I knew about was Jehovah's Witnesses regarding religion. So by the time that I decided to take things seriously with God, when it got to the point where I wanted to attend somewhere, I decided to do Jehovah's Witnesses because that's all I knew. And most of my family were Jehovah's Witnesses. So the first encounter that I had with the JW culture regarding dating. Now, I'm also going to tell you how I met my wife because I am a hopeless romantic. So when I first encountered the JW experience, I started attending meetings at 15, but as a reminder, I was studied with from 11 years of age all the way into 15. So 4 years straight. And it was once a week. And that's who studied with me. Brother and Sister Connor, referring to how I was actually introduced to the religion. But I was introduced to religion through my grandmother and other relatives, but regarding a study and actually coming into it, that happened later on. So I remember the first time I came to the Kingdom Hall, I didn't know the culture. I didn't know about that Jehovah's Witnesses only date other Jehovah's Witnesses. I knew none of that. None of that was talked about with me regarding, even while I was doing my Bible studies. I knew about associations regarding worldly people. And not that people are actually bad, but that is the culture. I didn't really learn about not dating other Jehovah's Witnesses that weren't baptized until perhaps maybe 2 years into the religion after I was baptized. And I'm going to explain that for a reason. Now, because it just depends on who studies with you, also depends on the culture. It also depends on, when I'm saying the culture that you're in regarding the congregation, although it's uniform, but a lot of people still deviate from what is in literature. And also it depends on what times articles come out regarding dating experiences. So the first time I came to the Kingdom Hall, there was a lot of young ladies that ran up to me. They were like teenagers as well. I guess I was a new face in town and I kind of liked that. And they were inviting me places. Now I had no clue that they weren't supposed to really try to talk to me because I wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, yet alone somebody that was an unbaptized publisher. I was nothing. I didn't know any of those things. I was learning it all at the age of 15. Now, I knew about certain beliefs through my studies, but I didn't know anything about the culture until 15. That's when I started to learn various things about the culture. Now, I want to say that I was trying to get married around 17 or 18. Now, I got baptized at 16. I tried to get baptized at 15, but I was rejected because they told me that I wasn't studying long enough. So I was trying to figure out how to approach a girl. And what happened, some of the brothers that were similar to my age or a little bit older, I noticed that they were having more success than me. I thought that all you needed to do was have a young lady be attracted to you and just speak normal and be romantic. So I would just go with a direct approach. I would walk up to someone at an assembly and say, hey, my name is Isaac. I would like to get to know you. May I have your telephone number? Now, I didn't have marriage in my mind. I didn't even realize that was a thing because I thought it was absurd, even as a teenager, to just go straight into getting someone's number because you want to marry them. I was thinking you should try to get to know them first and be friends and then see where it goes, not where you go into it with that intent. So around this time, that's when some of the elders would say, hey, if you're not ready to get married, then you shouldn't talk to females. Now, I still disagree with that because I thought, see, this is me kind of being normal, I guess, trying to take the normal approach of getting to know people and acquiesce it into the culture of the religion, not the culture of the Bible, the culture of the religion. So, and I did not disagree with dating with the intent to be married, but how is it that I'm going to approach someone and already have in my mind I'm going to marry this person? I don't even know them. So I was thinking like that. So now one brother told me, he said, hey, when you try to talk to the females, don't just isolate one of them. He was saying things like, so go up to a group of them at the assembly. And you know that when you used to walk around the assembly, they used to have the brothers carrying out the signs, please be seated, stuff like that. And he was telling me that you want to always have assignments. You want to always have things to do. Let the sister see you active. And this is me learning the culture because I realized that they were not every single lady, but a lot of the sisters were being trained to look at titles and you doing stuff at assemblies and stuff, working the sound. Like this is all you need. And this makes you qualified as a suitable candidate. When you really think about it, that's ridiculous. So you're going to pick someone to spend the rest of your life with simply because they're doing sound and passing out microphones, walking up and down the aisle, and other things. And when you really think about that, I'm not saying that any of that can't be used for one's good, but that does not make someone qualified because someone can easily go through the motion. There was a lot of brothers going through the motion, and I was sincere. And I know they were going through the motion because I knew them personally, because often when you aren't born into something, I was being praised as a young person for coming into the organization on my own. And I noticed that a lot of young people weren't doing anything with the organization. So I definitely wanted to take it seriously. And I was being praised. And sometimes I felt like some of the brothers around my age didn't like that because they didn't take it seriously themselves. And I didn't understand why, because I was like, why wouldn't you want to take this seriously? So basically, I'm learning the culture and I'm saying, so that's what I need to do. And then I met this girl. So this was on Hurricane Katrina, and she was from New Orleans, and she was actually liking someone at that time, and I didn't know that. So I'm 17. I think she may have been 18, and I thought I was in love or whatever, and I didn't realize that I had to figure this thing out. So I was always trying to do flowers, have a regular conversation, and nothing was working. I didn't realize it was so simple as just call their congregation regarding the culture and just have a title. That's all you need to do and give comments. And I didn't focus on any of that because I knew that was superficial. I was doing that stuff, but why would I focus on that? Why would I try to tell you all the stuff I'm doing to impress you when I just want to impress you with who I am as a person and nothing else? So that was my approach at that particular time. So I'm still not having success. So now I'm saying, okay, this can't be that easy. Just have a title and that's it. So I kept making it complicated. So now, because I'm not having success, I honestly, at that particular time, as when I was younger, I focused way too much on looks. I just wanted just be beautiful. Now, it's not that I didn't care about other things. I didn't associate spirituality with titles or perfunctory works. Like I was thinking you really had to get to know the person. But what I realized is that you also have to focus on the personality of the person as well. So now I meet someone at an assembly. This is a different person. And I walk up to her. I think I was maybe 18 at the time. I think she was 17. And I think I was basically, I was like a year older than her. So I think I was 17. She was 17 or I was 18 or she was 17. I was 19 and she was 18, whatever. So basically I was in what I do remember is I was in my first year of college and she was graduating from high school. So anyway, but she ended up being an unbaptized publisher. See, I didn't think that was a big deal. She wasn't baptized yet. So when people found out about it, one of the elders told me, he said, "Hey, you just insulted all of these available sisters. You know why, Ike?" He used to call me Ike. He said, because you picked somebody to try to get to know that wasn't baptized yet. Now, he said also you could confuse her. Now, around this time, I started learning about the articles because I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that because it was nowhere in the Bible. And I remember the scripture in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, marry only in the Lord. Now, when you read that scripture or that chapter in context, it does not say marry only a Jehovah's Witness. It does not say marry only somebody that's a Baptist. It does not say marry only somebody that's a Mormon. What does it mean to marry in the Lord? Somebody that believes in Jesus Christ. Mormons believe in Jesus Christ. Jehovah's Witnesses believe in Jesus Christ. Baptists. I can go down the line of people that believe in Jesus Christ. So that's what that scripture means. Now, it was given to me later on that no, this applies to just us. Now, again, that's nowhere in the Bible, but that's the interpretation of that. Now, let's move forward with this. So anyway, I was saying, well, she can just get baptized. And they're like, well, no, this might distort the person's motives. Now, she did eventually get baptized, but that relationship ended up not working out whatsoever. And I'm not going to say anything bad about her, just in case she watches this video. I think she was a good person and definitely became better, and we all grow in life. Now, I had an excellent relationship with her mom, and so that was good. She became like a mother-like figure to me in many ways. But moving on from that experience, I remember getting to the point where I was really trying my best. I would say from like 17 to 26 up until so when I was 26, that's when I met my wife. But from that 17 to 26, I was really struggling. I was really trying. I wanted to get married. I wanted to date. I remember the first time that my first kiss was at 19. And there was a sister that was interested in me. She flew from Atlanta and came down to see me. I didn't ask her to do this. She just popped up on her own. She brought some friends with her. And I remember just realized, I said, no, this is not the person for me. You know, she was attractive or whatever, but I didn't like the fact that she was like seeking me out. I realized at that time, I didn't like to be pursued. I wanted to do the pursuing. Now, that made my job easier just to know that you were interested in me, but I don't want to be pursued. I didn't want to be pursued. I wanted to do the pursuing. But fast forward, prior to that experience happening, I remember when I had my first kiss at 19, I went and told one of the elders. This is how indoctrinated I was. I went and told an elder, and I thought that, wow, I'm a horrible individual because I kissed somebody. And all the elder asked me was, hey, did anything else happen? I said, no. And he said, okay, well, just don't let it happen again. And I thought I was going to be destroyed and all of this. Here I am, 19 years old, pretty much. I'm a grown man, young adult. And here I am thinking that I've done the worst thing ever because I kissed somebody. And so I'm just giving you a little bit of background, thinking about some of these stories of the dating experiences. So now I'm also on the college campus. And I realized that I always felt more normal with people that weren't witnesses, but of course I couldn't date them. So I really am trying to meet somebody, and I have money because I had been working for myself since I was 17. So I had money, I had the ability to provide all of this. And I just could not bring myself to be fake and to pretend to be something that I wasn't. Now, I was pioneering. I was a ministerial servant, but I didn't talk about all that kind of stuff. I was talking about your goals and dreams. I was also talking about being yourself. Who are you? And I realized that, and also in my area, there weren't a lot of sisters that I found attractive in Louisiana. So I wanted to kind of branch out. So you also have to remember what you like is subjected to your area, because there might be some people available in the organization, but the issue is you may not find them attractive on both sides. So there may just be nothing but older people in your area. It could be just nothing but younger people in your area. It could be a whole lot of different stuff. And also, this reminds me of an experience. I remember when I was on the drama, when I played Julius in 2005 or 4. And there was a brother that was about 27 at that time. I was 16, and one of the girls was 14 or 15. And 3 years later, when she was 17, actually, he started dating her when she was 16. But it was kept under the rug because her dad was an elder and he knew about it. And then he married her when she was 17. So I was 18 at this particular time. So he would have been almost 30 then. So I remember making a note of that. I said, that's kind of weird looking back on it, that he was about 10, 12 years older than her. He had started dating her when she was a minor, because the dad was okay with it. And that just kind of reminds me of the CSA stuff that goes on a lot. And I wonder, how often does that happen? Like, why would you be grooming a 16-year-old to marry somebody that's about to be 30? And for a father to do that just seems, looking back on that just seems very abnormal. It seems kind of sick when I actually think about it. Now, moving on from that, I remember when I first started coming to Houston, there was actually a few other people that I was talking to before I ended up meeting my wife. And I remember when we met, there was a bunch of young people hanging out, and I wouldn't say that I have game. I'm definitely romantic, but although I'm a poet, I'm smooth with words when I want to be. But sometimes the initial things make me nervous, so I don't really say the right things. Now, once I'm comfortable, I'm fine. So I remember the first time I met my wife. It was a bunch of people hanging out, and basically I knew her best friend. And I said, hey, who is that? And she was telling me who she was. And she said, just go talk to her. So I asked her to dance, and she said she doesn't dance. This particular night, she just was not in the mood to be bothered. So I remember when it was time to leave out of the lounge that we had all went to, we had to go somewhere else because I had these jeans that were not acceptable. And I didn't know that there was a dress code. So here I am coming from Louisiana. The first impression is I'm messing up everyone's experience because I'm dressed in a way where people can't get in. So anyway, we exchanged numbers, and we pretty much hit it off after talking on the phone. We talked for a couple of months, and she wasn't looking for anything. So we broke up a couple of times and then eventually got back together. And I'll share that story on another day. And I eventually got to the point where I just confessed my love. And it took about 6 to 9 months of pursuit. and that's just how I like it, where I have to actually work for something, and then I got my prize. But I want to say this: on the day I proposed, so I was originally going to get this doctor that was trained with another trainer. He was also a musician. I was going to let him allow me to perform at one of his concerts because I do spoken word. So I was going to have him invite me up after he finished his performance, and he was going to say, we have a special guest. Then I was going to perform it. And my wife didn't find out that I did spoken word performances until we were married. I kept that part a secret. So basically, I was going to go on stage and I was going to perform and I was going to do a poem and propose to her. But I told her friend what I was thinking about doing at that time, her best friend, or one of them. And I thought that she had told her what I was thinking about doing. So I decided to switch up the plan at the last minute. So I had this ring built on BlueNile.com, and I built my own ring and I ordered it. And then I called her sister and her mom, and I said, hey, because she had told me she always wanted her family members to always be present. So I made sure everyone was at the house. I drove 4 hours and a half to get to Houston, and I brought 2 friends with me. She had no clue I was coming. It was actually during March Madness. So when I got there, all her family was there. She was thinking it was just a regular gathering. And then I show up, and her nephew was very young at the time. He saw me. He ran. He said, hey, Isaac is here. So she was surprised that I was there. She said, what are you doing here? I said, oh, they had a little gathering. They told me. She had no clue what was about to happen. And I like to catch you with the element of surprise. So basically, I told her mom, I said, hey, make sure you do opening prayer over the food. So when she did that, she said, hey, I'm going to get Isaac to pray over the food. Now, her father was there as well. Now, he didn't really talk to me until after I proposed. So we're there, and I open up with this speech. I say, hey, I just want to let everybody know how exceptional my wife is. Well, she wasn't my wife, but how exceptional she is. And I said that I have 3 holes in my heart. And I'm kind of dramatic when I do certain stuff. So each time I said what the holes were, I walked closer. She has no clue what was about to go on. So I said, when I first met her, when she became my friend, she filled 1 hole in my heart. Of course, I walked closer, picture the dramatics. And then I said the second hole, now everyone knew we were dating at this time. I said the second hole that was filled is when she became my girlfriend. I got a little bit closer. And I said, but however, I have this third hole that's missing in my heart. And I said, unless this hole is fulfilled, I won't be complete. So then after that, that's when I leaned back and I had my friend give me the ring. At this particular point, she starts to cry. I'm loving it because I'm dramatic. I walk forward. I drop to my knee in slow motion. And I said, there's this third hole that I have. You know, I remember kind of exposing myself with my heart hitting on it or whatever. And I opened the ring and I said, would you do me the honor of making my heart complete and filling this third hole by becoming my wife? Put the ring on. She's crying, you know, all of that. And then she says, yes, 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 yes. Now, I was kind of surprised I didn't cry because I usually get emotional during moments like that. But I cried at the wedding like a baby. She didn't cry at all because she said she didn't want to mess up her makeup. But I was crying uncontrollably. Like my best man had to keep bringing me tissue paper. And the reason why I was crying because I thought about from 17 up until that point where we got married. And I was thinking about how I was trying so hard and it was all worth it. And I was also thinking about how I had saved myself because I knew from, I guess, 16 up until that point when we got married, like a 10 to 12 year period, how hard it was to maintain my chastity. And I was like, I did it. So I was proud of myself. Now, so the dating experience as a JW was interesting. And I do think that it shapes people's minds in good and negative ways. I think that if you take that same culture and apply it to the real world, you're not going to be successful. When you try to do certain things, I don't really disagree with a chaperone. Now, I wouldn't impose that on other people, grown individuals, but I see some benefit to that. Now, of course, it doesn't stop people from doing stuff. But if someone is truly trying to live up to Bible standards, if they feel like they don't have any self-control, then that could be helpful. The only issue with that is if you never learn to have self-control, then what happens when you don't have those measures in place? Because nobody is stopping anybody from doing anything. So I'm never going to disagree with that. But at the same time, there's plenty of people, Muslims and other parties, that don't do chaperones. What they do is they meet in public settings and they don't go out at certain times of the night together. And it allows you to really get to know that person better and more intimately by not having a third party. So I just see benefits in doing that as well. Now, when I think about a few things, when I think about certain meetings with elders, when you go to those elders and servants and circuit overseer meetings, and I remember I used to enjoy some of those because for the most part, it would be relatively good information that we would be exposed to, and it would be encouraging. And I used to always wonder what the elders would talk about, once we would leave. And what's interesting about these situations were that I remember, at least with some of the circuit overseers, is that the elders act like they were literally scared of the circuit overseer. And I was always wondering why. I was always wondering why is his main concern about appointing people? Why is the main concern about having the books in check regarding the money? And why is the main concern about numbers? The circuit overseer would go on stage and say, he would give the congregation average. He say, oh, you guys are below average, or you guys are fulfilling your average regarding hours when they were counting hours. So I find it interesting because what would they do now since only pioneers count time? And they wouldn't do that. Maybe they would just give the pioneers their average. And basically the congregation's spirituality was judged on if they met a quota. I remember thinking that was interesting. I was like, where in the Bible is spirituality based on meeting an hourly quota as a congregation? I remember one circuit overseer even said he didn't sense any Holy Spirit there. It felt like it was a mean congregation. And I remember the elders did not like that whatsoever. So, but it was kind of true to a degree. But I was just wondering, why is spirituality being measured by how many hours you get? Not even quality hours. Nobody knows. It could just be how many hours you got. So when you really think about it, spirituality in the Watchtower culture is basically having a title, because to deny that you would deem somebody that's a regular publisher that's not an elder, you would deem them as more spiritual. It's just not true. So you do look at titles as spirituality. Pioneering, someone and that's a shame because Jesus condemned that. You want the high places that Jesus talked about. You want to be in front of everybody. Those things were condemned. So true spirituality is looking after your neighbor, taking care of the homeless. That's what the Bible shows, showing hospitality. And a lot of people did do that, but it was sometimes the brothers that weren't often concerned with titles. Now, I'm not saying the elders didn't show hospitality either, but how much more of an example of spirituality is it when one simply cares for their neighbor, when one simply provides food for the hungry, when one simply preaches from the heart, when one simply looks after people, and not just JWs, but all of their neighbors. That's what true spirituality was in a lot of different ways, and I love that. Now, when I think about the summary of elders meetings, when I think about the summary of, and I was never an elder, by the way, I declined that twice. When I think about those meetings, at the core of some of those things, I remember one time where I tried to go to an elder for advice when I first got married, I was having an issue, and he was like, appointed men shouldn't talk to other appointed men about these issues. He said, find somebody else to talk about it with. Because he was basically saying that if you're having any problems, then that could potentially call your qualifications into question. I was like, how crazy is this? You're supposed to be a shepherd. This is a true story. So I'm like, that doesn't mean that it's my fault. That doesn't mean that it's not my fault. It doesn't mean that it is my fault. It just means that I'm new to this and I'm seeking advice on certain things. And I thought that's what you were there for. He's basically like, just figure it out. So I thought that was interesting. But moving on to critical thinking. When I think about Proverbs 11:1 and Proverbs 20:23, where it talks about two different measurement systems or scales is dishonest to God. So you can't have a standard for yourself that you don't have for other people, or you can't have a standard for other people that you don't hold yourself to. So when I think about that, when it comes down to critical thinking, that or thinking analytically, so one person can put you under scrutiny. Like, look how Watchtower members treat people that ask questions. They put them under scrutiny, cross-examine them, and really they don't really cross-examine them. They just condemn them and use ad hominems and treat them like they're dirt because they have evidence of certain things and that people don't want to look at. And when you think about critical thinking, they don't put the governing body under that same level of scrutiny. People that they've never met, a lot of them, they just trust them. They don't look into who they are, but they do that to everybody else, except the people that basically have them as mental slaves as using them for free labor, building after building and then selling it to churches in many cases, keep moving the goalposts, telling you that you're never going to grow old, and then, you're going to die in this system, or it's likely that you're going to die in this system. We don't know. People are giving up their whole lives, and they're just playing you guys for food, but you don't see it because you're being so arrogant, and you don't want to listen to an opposing side that has the real facts, because it's simple. If what you have is true or truth, it will stand up under scrutiny. But to see people not apply their analytical thinking to themselves. They apply it to everybody else, but not to themselves. And then they want everybody else to apply their analytical thinking to all other religions, but not to JWs. Or they want to control how you apply it. I remember being out in service with another servant. I think this was maybe in 2023 or 2022. There was a guy that wanted to talk about the Trinity. He invited us in, and he had a pamphlet, and he said, "Hey, can I show you all something? I know what you all believe, but I would like to show you something and discuss it." And the brother was saying, "Well, we're here to teach you. We're not here to be taught." And I was willing to talk to the man. And I was thinking like, well, let's help him. Let's see what he has to say. And the brother walked off. He said, "Come on, Isaac." And I was going to talk to the man. And I was like, this is our defense. We're just going to tell this guy that we're not here to be taught. We're here to do the teaching. We don't want to hear that. But he was saying, so you want me to take your literature, but you can't take my literature. And matter of fact, you don't have to take my literature. Let's talk about it. Let me tell you why I believe this. And because he disagreed and said, "Hey, I don't agree with you all," he didn't even want to talk to him. And the only reason I walked away is because I guess the social pressure at that time that we were supposed to stay together. So I was trying to keep the unity, but I was actually disappointed in what we did, because what type of defense was that? The guy said, "Hey, I have something to show you, and if I'm wrong, prove it to me." We didn't even give him a chance, because he said, "I want to show you something." And it was so arrogant of the brother I was with. He was saying, "No, I'm here to teach you. We don't do the teaching." He told this guy, "I knocked on your door. You didn't knock on mine." And what's hypocritical about that, even if the guy did knock on his door, he wouldn't have listened to him. So when I think about it, when you think about critical thinking and analytical thinking, and you talk about two different measurement systems, if you want somebody else to cross-examine their beliefs, you have to be willing to do that exact same thing. If that man said, "Hey, my pastor gives me all the information I need. He's been appointed by God. The response with that would be, well, let's look at what the Bible says. You are a Bible reader, right? How do you know that he's not misleading you if he tells you you can't look at anything else? That's what people would say. But when the tables are turned, oh, no, no, no. They would never do that. Well, what does the Bible say about putting your trust in man? Jeremiah 17:5 and Psalm 146 and verse 3. So when you think about it, you're not going there to learn from other people or to see that you could possibly be wrong. When you have new light after new light, things are constantly changing. And think about how that looks to other people, where they're simply saying, make a defense for your faith. If I'm saying, hey, I'm not trying to study these books with you. I have some direct questions to ask you, and I'm going to show it to you, but I need you to look at this. Or taking people's pamphlets and throwing it in the trash. So when I look back on that, when I think about critical thinking, when I think about just being fair, not having two different measurement systems, when you really just sit down and analyze it, and of course I was guilty of this myself, but I was always willing to talk to people. And I remember this guy I used to train, and perhaps I was a little more, I guess, reluctant because he was, I guess, subconsciously because of his sexual preferences. Not that I was judging him. I just felt like what he was saying, I think that took away from it. And basically, which I don't think this way anymore. And not saying I agree with certain things. I'm just simply saying I follow exactly what the Bible says, but I am not someone's judge. So basically he was saying, okay, Isaac, you always give me these magazines and these tracts, but he brought me something. He said, are you going to read it? He said, I know Jehovah's Witnesses. You're not going to read that. And I told him I was. So I actually read it, but I just read like 1 or 2 pages. And I remember feeling guilty about reading it. And I realized how stupid that is looking back. But he was telling me, he said, that's arrogant that you want me to come to your church, but you won't come to mine. And basically, I just told him, I said, hey, you're wrong. You're a false religion. That's why I'm not going to come. We have the truth. And he was saying, okay, why do you have the truth? What is it? I started talking about various things, and, he had a slight rebuttal for it. But the reason why I won the argument, primarily because he didn't know his Bible well. If I had talked to somebody that really knew how to defend their faith and knew their Bible well, that would not have went well. I guarantee you. And I know that now, after rereading the Bible and really studying certain things. So what I'm thinking about in relaying that story is that he was trying to help me with certain things. And when I left the religion, I called him and I said, hey, I think that I was in a cult. And he said, Isaac, you were. He said, I knew it the whole time. And he said that I loved you like a brother no matter what, because he was like 20 years older than me. And then he said, I just looked at you like a little brother. And then, and I knew that you were lost in many ways. And he said that I've just been praying for you, that you reach your own conclusions. And I apologized to him now he did come to hear one of my talks too. So a lot of people would still support me, even knowing the truth about what I believe. And they never told me certain things. And I appreciate that because there was true love. There was unconditional love that this person was supporting me and still praying for me from afar, no matter what. So those are just a few stories regarding dating, thinking about things with critical thinking, and also just thinking about how I've grown in several ways, and also just looking at the culture of a variety of things. So it's very important for us all to do some self-reflection and to look at some of these stories as a healing process, not just a healing process, but an opportunity to look at where you were and where you are now. I hope that so many people have grown. I hope that so many people have grown over the past year, almost a year rather. It'll be like 2 more months to make a year since I've been making YouTube videos. So I've only been making YouTube videos for like 10 months. When you look back on this, the people that have been on this journey with me, please share how you have grown in various ways since you've left Watchtower, whether it was recent or many years ago, or how you have grown or how we have grown together since you've been on my channel. please share various thoughts and various things. And for those ones whom I missed a couple of Zoom calls with, MT, I missed the Zoom call with you. Please, let's reschedule. Angelina, I missed a Zoom call with you. Carl, I missed a Zoom call with you. And Alistair, we need to set up a Zoom call. And a few other people that I missed a Zoom call with. So please forgive me. And yes, and the other person that you know who you are, your name starts with an L. I missed a Zoom call with you as well. So let's reschedule those things. Please forgive me. Things do happen. When I talk to anybody I've actually talked to several people via Zoom. I'm not just throwing those things out there. I've been having some issues with my cell phone, issues with my laptop, but I was able to make a good video today. So this is one of the videos I've did in a long time. I'm happy that I was able to get 40 something minutes. So guess what that means? I can get back to doing some lives, or not back to doing some lives, back to my original plan of doing sermons on Sundays. So guess what? Next Sunday, I'm going to give my public talk number 1 of the topic that I mentioned. And I'm actually going to record it first. And because I have to test my cell phone regarding going live just to make sure it works properly. So I'm going to but I may just go for it. It seems like things are working fine. So I may just actually go for doing it live next Sunday. So look out for that. So again, like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being patient with me. Please have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your Saturday. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.